as an artist, things are pretty tight. Starving artist isn't just a cliche, you know. Besides, don't we say that art imitates life? And all this talk is well and good, but when your tummy's growling and you gotta pay the rent, you gotta come up with some way of bringing in some cash. My paintings sure weren't bringing in any cash. Sure, I do okay during the art shows, and sometimes I can even put away a few dollars, but this is mid-December. And I'm still waiting on Mr. Picotti to get back with me on that private showing. Been a few years since I had a showing. The critics raved. Once the show was over, no more sales. Go figure. So I guess I won't hold my breath. I need to come up with some cash now. Took out my masterpiece, my still life. Swore I'd never pawn one of my paintings. I'm so proud. I know it's worth at least $1,000, but maybe I can get $100 for it at the pawn shop. That would at least get me some groceries. Old Mother Hubbard, you know. And I carried my painting into the pawn shop and met the proprietor. I told him I had this painting here I'd like to show you and maybe get a loan on it. He seemed really impressed and was going on and on about my talent and how the painting looked like real shoes, and I asked him if he liked it. He said very much. When I asked him what he'd give me for it, he said nothing. He didn't deal in paintings, and I told him it was all I had to pawn. He told me not to be too sure, Victoria Delaney, and how do you know my name? He said, your signature's on the painting. He said he learned many things from my painting and my signature. He says they tell of poverty. You must be very poor. You should be rich. And I said, well, I would love to be rich, but today I'd settle for $100 in cash. He told me I could have anything I wanted. Everything I wanted. Told me I was being a fool, and I'm like, who are you? He said, I'm your benefactor. I can give you all that you desire. So I asked him, what the devil do you mean? He was like, now, let's not mention any names. And I told him, I'm not selling you my soul. He says, oh no, not sell, Miss Delaney. Pawn it with me. The regular pawn ticket deal for 90 days. That sounds like a reasonable length of time. Think it over, Miss Delaney. Whatever you desire. So I'm like, well, okay, so what do I have to do to redeem it? And he said, very simply, paint a picture for me. Well, what's the matter with this picture? It's my best work. And then he's like, oh yeah, but that's a still life. Not suitable for his collection. But he wanted to talk about all that later, after he fulfilled his end of the bargain. Now that should have been a clue, right? But he handed me the contract and asked me to sign my name. So I did, and he handed me my pawn ticket and told me it was going to be redeemable at sundown on the 15th of March. All I'd have to do is show the pawn ticket, and that would conclude our deal. Before I even got home, there was a message on my phone from Mr. Picotti. He's planning a showing for next month at the Kimberly Art Gallery in New York City. Wants to meet with me here tonight at the studio, pick out the paintings for the show. I'm stunned. I took the pawn ticket out of my tattered coat pocket and just stared at it. The show was a marvelous success. I virtually sold every painting at thousands of dollars apiece. It was more than I could ever have imagined in my life. I worked diligently on a beautiful landscape for the pawn shop owner and took it over to the shop a full month early. And I rattled on about all the success I'd been having. That life is a dream. I didn't know how he was doing it. And then he said, yeah, I promised you famous and riches. And you promised me, but I told him that's why I was here. I brought you this painting. And then he was furious that it was a landscape. He said the agreement stated he chose, and he wanted me to paint a portrait. He said only the kind of portrait that I can paint, a portrait that can capture the soul. He told me very matter-of-factly that he was holding my soul in pawn, and unless I painted a picture and exchanged it for another soul, he was going to claim full possession, which meant that I had to choose someone else to take my place. And he told me it was my fault because I had made the bargain. And then he said, oh, don't take it so hard, my dear. Just choose somebody that you want to do away with anyway, and then you can please us both. And I turned and I ran out of that pawn shop, and as I did, I could hear him yell after me, you have 30 days, Miss Delaney. You have 30 days. I am in complete turmoil. On my way home, I looked at the homeless and the unfortunates on the streets. I could pay them for the sitting. I know they'd accept just to get some money. And what would it matter? He said he didn't care whose portrait it was. They pulled the car over and parked and just sat there looking at that elderly man in the alley, so drunk he can hardly stand up. Do I choose him? Or how about that young girl over there all strung out on heroin? Do I choose her? So many people. And aren't they unfortunate enough? What right do I have to make this choice? And yet, if I don't, I'm back to the studio and started painting outlines of faces. Whose portrait could I paint? I don't want to kill anybody. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I swear I'm going out of my ever-loving mind. It's become a pattern, this behavior, this stalking behavior. I've been doing this every day. Now the days have turned into weeks, and I know my time is running short. You know, it's not easy. Not easy picking out a person to damn to hell for eternity. I swear I'm going out of my cot and picking mine. And he sent me a text today. 48 hours was all it said. And then I suddenly had an idea. I locked myself in my studio, not taking meals, not sleeping, working fervently, and I can't stop. Oh, I'm exhausted, and I'm finally finished. Stepping back, I was very well pleased. And as the sun went down, there was a knock on the door. And I opened it, and he was standing there. He says, well, you know why I'm here. Is it ready? I told him, yes, sir, please come in. See for yourself. He was pretty upset. Accused me of trying to trick him. But I told him, you said you wanted a portrait of any living person. Any. You said, give me my portrait. So here it is. Your portrait. And then I went to the coat closet and retrieved that beloved old tattered coat and took the pawn ticket out from my pocket and shoved the ticket and the paintings into his hands. And he took the portrait and the pawn ticket. And then the devil, as he was leaving, paused at the door, looked back at me, and he said he didn't believe that a mere mortal would be able to trick him, and he'd be more careful with his contracts in the future.